Hi everyone, it's me, Diana, the Doll Fairy. Here on my channel, I make custom dolls and doll-related art projects. Today we're continuing my Destination Disney series of dolls representing iconic locations and attractions in Disney parks. The series began with Main Street, USA, representing the nostalgic charm of the Magic Kingdom. Next, I'll be transforming a Monster High Twyla and a BTS RM doll into a pair of dolls representing the EPCOT park in Walt Disney World. In my concept art video, I redesigned the classic EPCOT characters of Figment and Dreamfinder, who come from the original Journey into Imagination attraction which opened in 1983. Figment is a little purple dragon who is a figment of Dreamfinder's imagination made real. Riders adventured with these two guides through environments which explored the role of imagination in art, science, literature, and discovery. Though the classic version of the ride no longer exists today, these characters represent the themes of Epcot, and Figment can be found in much of the park's merchandise as an unofficial mascot. I'll be reimagining these characters to have a slightly anime aesthetic with a steampunk theme, with Dreamfinder as a younger, more attractive version of himself, heavily inspired by his depiction in the Disney-Marvel collaboration comic. Figment will be a cute steampunk magical girl-style character. In part 1 of this video, we'll be making Dreamfinder, and to see Figment, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you won't miss part 2 when it's released next week. So let's get started with this BTS doll as a base. I'm thinking I can use the pants the doll is wearing as a template to make a pattern for a pair of dark blue dress pants, so I set those aside for now. I cut off the doll's hair as close to the scalp as I can. Then, by dunking the doll in hot water, I can remove the head and scrape out the glue inside to get a clean scalp like this. For some reason, I forgot to record that part, so I'm sorry. I use acetone on a cotton ball to remove the face, but for whatever reason, BTS dolls have their faces printed on differently or something, and they're extremely difficult to remove. After a whole lot of scrubbing and struggling, the face is blank and we can get started on the face up. First, I spray the blank head with 2 to 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear UV Flat Sealant, outside with my respirator mask on to protect my lungs. Then, after all coats have fully dried, I start sketching with light brown Prismacolor watercolor pencil to make the outlines of the facial features. I'm thinking I'll give him a sort of whimsical facial expression with one eyebrow raised. For a reference, I took this extremely unflattering photo of myself to make sure I was getting the eyebrow positioning right. I also give him a slightly asymmetrical smile that corresponds with the dimple that's part of the doll's face sculpt. He's going to get a beard later, so it will probably be covered up anyway, but you know. I'm not really sure about the original eye color of the Dreamfinder character, but I think a hazel green will look great with his red-orange hair. I'm using light browns to dull the green color into a more hazel hue. The next step is to use soft pastels to blush and shade the face. I'm using soft browns, pinks, and orange tones to create some shading in the face, especially under the eyebrows and around the eyes. I also use shading to emphasize his smile at the corners of his mouth. I use a light pinkish brown color to give his lips some color too. I like to use a Q-tip to smooth out and blend the pastels on the face. I also add a bit of pink blush to his cheeks, since I was thinking about how Dreamfinder was originally sort of a jolly and cheerful type character, and I feel like that means he should have some color in his cheeks. After spraying a new layer of Mr. Super Clear, I've sealed in the work I've done so far, and now I can work on building up color and making the features sharper and more vivid. I use a darker brown to go over the outlines of the eyes. For the irises, I like to gradually create a gradient to indicate depth and make them look more alive. I add another layer of green, but also some more browns, especially near the top, to start creating that gradation of color. I eventually add a little bit of yellow to the green hazel eyes as well, near the bottom of the iris, to give the effect of light caught in that part of the iris. The pastels are really building up now, and look a lot more visible. After a final spray of sealant, I use some black acrylic paint and a detail brush to paint the pupils in the center of each iris. Then I use a tiny bit of white to create the highlights, and then to whiten the sclera. You can see here how much this makes his eyes stand out in his face. And now his face-up is done. I can't wait to give him his beard, but that will come a bit later. Right now, let's make his outfit, which will require quite a few different components. For his white colored shirt, I won't be making sleeves, to cut down on bulk under the jacket. For his pants, I simply used a seam ripper to deconstruct the BTS pants, and that's the exact pattern I'm using for each pant leg, which will be made from blue cotton. For the all-important jacket, I'm going to use this lovely stretch velvet. The pattern is one that I made originally using Dexter Charming's jacket from Ever After High, and I adjusted that for my male Rococo Sylveon doll. And then this time I modified that pattern again to fit my vision for a steampunk vibe. When all the outer pieces are cut, I move on to my blue satin, which I will be using for the cuffs, collar, and lining of the jacket. The vest pattern is also one that I made for my Sylveon doll, and I'm adjusting it again to fit my vision for Dreamfinder. The lining of the vest will be this magenta cotton fabric, while the outside is this amazing silk brocade fabric that I'm terribly excited about using. This kind of fabric is very difficult to work with, but applying fray check on the edges of all of my pieces will help take care of that problem. I'm going to start with the white collared shirt. I stitch the shoulder seams first, and then I make the double layer collar by sewing around the shape and turning it right side out. Then I sew up the sides of the shirt and stitch the collar to the top edge. It fits! I hem one side of the opening. I think I'll simply stitch this shirt onto the doll later because adding Velcro or snaps would add too much bulk and I really don't want that. The next layer of his outfit is the vest. I start by stitching the shoulder seams on both the outer layer of the vest and the lining. I don't know the proper human way to line jackets and such. I've actually tried to figure it out before on my own and I've run into major problems, so I'm quite intimidated. But I did a bit of research and I came up with the plan that I thought would be the best solution for this particular project. I line up both pieces together and then stitch along the bottom of the front, around the neck opening, all the way to the bottom of the other side. Then I also stitch along each armhole. It's important, however, that I leave the sides and the bottom of the back open for now. This way I can turn the whole vest right side out and give it a quick ironing. Now for the bottom of the back of the vest, I could use an invisible stitch to close it, but this brocade fabric will probably start shredding if I do, so I choose to simply glue this seam together, and it's way easier and it looks very neat as well. Then I sew along the sides of the vest. This method means that the seam allowance for the side seams isn't hidden in the lining. But that doesn't bother me too much, and I think at this scale, this is a perfectly acceptable solution. See how nice and neat it looks? Now for the jacket. This part is definitely going to be the trickiest. I'm also going to line the inside of the jacket, but not the sleeves. However, I do need to keep in mind that the collar will fold out, and I want the part that shows on the collar to be the satin part. So it just takes some thinking and orchestrating. The underside of the collar will be cotton to again cut down on extra thickness. So first, I did the wrong thing completely and I sewed the two collar pieces together. Then I stitched the shoulders of both the outer jacket and the lining, and I set them up to stitch along the front opening like I did for the vest. But then I realized that the collar pieces should be sewn to these two pieces respectively. So I undid that seam and I sewed each collar piece to the jacket pieces. Now I can stitch from the front bottom of the jacket along the opening and the collar to the other side. I also stitched along the bottom of the back of the jacket as well, so this is a little different from how I did the vest. I'm leaving the sleeve openings open because sleeves will have to go there. Before turning it right side out to continue, I'm clipping along all the curves so it will be able to lie flat. Next, I flip the jacket right side out and iron along the edges to flatten them. Let's turn our attention to the sleeves. I'm going to give them decorative satin cuffs first. Then I stitch the sleeves onto the jacket at the armholes. Looking good so far. Let's finish off the jacket by sewing up the side seams and along the sleeves. I did run into a bit of trouble with things not matching up perfectly and being a little off kilter. And although I'm pretty sure the stretchiness of the fabric was the culprit here, it was also pretty forgiving as I tried to make it work. And here it is, neatly lined, at least in the parts that are visible. At the moment, it looks a little bit like a cozy velvet robe or something, rather than a tailored jacket, but hopefully we'll be able to fix that when the doll is all put together. And now the pants, which I thought would be very straightforward, but actually I was quite confused about how best to sew them together. I start by hemming the bottom of each pant leg, simple enough. Then I stitched both legs together, or along the crotch seam, basically. Then I stopped to realize that sewing up the side of each pant leg would actually be pretty tricky if I don't want the seams on the outside, which obviously I don't. I got kind of frustrated, but I eventually devised a way to kind of roll up the pant legs inside of each other while stitching the sides. I really don't know how to explain it, but I don't think it's how you're supposed to do this, so I made it work, and after hemming up the top edge, voila, pants. I added a bit of Velcro in the back for the closure. Now that the outfit is fully constructed, I'm returning to stitch the white shirt in place on the doll. For the vest closure, I carefully stitch on a small metal snap button. Either the vest is a little too short or the pants are a little too short because I can see the shirt peeking out beneath the vest and I don't like that. So I quickly stitch up a bit of black fabric into an impromptu cummerbund. I think people either wear a cummerbund or a vest, not both together, but this was the best solution I could come up with, and I think it looks pretty good regardless. And Dreamfinder needs a white bow tie to finish up his ensemble. I used a piece of ribbon and some stitching tricks to make a lovely, neat little bow, which I will glue on later. Next, let's give him some hair. Off camera, I made these red-orange yarn wefts by combing out and straightening acrylic yarn with a flat iron, then gluing the edges. I'm going to glue the wefts right onto the scalp using fast grab tacky glue. I like to start at the back at the nape of the neck first. I also need to plan out where there will be a part line so I know how to glue on the wefts. I've decided that his hair will be pushed back in the front, but there will also be a bit of a part on the side as well. When I'm finished covering the head with the yarn wefts, he has quite a voluminous head of hair. I leave it overnight with some plastic wrap holding down the hair to relax the wefts as the glue dries. Now it's time for a haircut and some styling. I start by combing it out with a pretty fine-toothed comb, which is removing some extra yarn fluff, but that's a good thing because it's already so puffy. This is helping to smooth it down a bit and arrange the hair the way I want it to fall. I go right in with some scissors to cut the hair longer than I want it to be when I'm done. Since cutting like this with scissors will give you a really blunt cut, I'm going to use an eyebrow razor to feather out the ends and make it look more natural. Once I've gotten the length much closer to what I want, I decide to do a little ponytail in the back. I use a spray bottle with some water inside to tame the front part and keep it in place. Now for the part I've been really looking forward to, giving him his beard. I start by gluing some of the brushed yarn to the chin area. I definitely don't want you to be able to see the line of glue on the wefts, so I'm only gluing tufts of yarn that are trimmed off of the wefts so that it will look natural. I'm not quite sure yet how full of a beard I want him to have, so I'm adding the yarn hair gradually to see how I like it. It will definitely be trimmed much shorter though, I know that much. Look at that mustache! That will definitely get trimmed too. I use a combination of snipping with scissors and carefully using the eyebrow razor to trim the hairs neatly. I continue to add more on each side until I'm satisfied with how it looks. I have to say, this was easier and turned out better than I expected. I had quite a difficult time reuniting his head with his body, and I realized I really should have done that before I did his hair. I had to apply heat with a hairdryer to get it to work, which means I messed up his hair. I was pretty annoyed about that, but luckily I kind of liked the way the heat affected the yarn. It gave his hair a slight wave to it, and it gave me the crazy professor / mad scientist kind of vibe, which I think works perfectly well for his character. Now he just needs his iconic top hat. I basically just created a pattern on paper through trial and error, and then cut out the base for the brim of the hat from a piece of cardboard. For the cylinder part and the top, I used craft foam. All of the pieces are going to need to be covered with black fabric, so I go ahead and glue that on before assembling the hat. I used elastic bands to help hold the cylinder part in place as I glued it using fast grab tacky glue, which, if you haven't already noticed, is my #1 favorite glue. And now for a couple of finishing touches. I'm gluing on a couple of tiny metal gears as buttons on his vest, and also stitching on a little gold chain to add some detail. And now Dreamfinder is complete. Something that happens a lot when I work on a doll project is that I get anxious that the components aren't good enough. But when I put everything together and look at the finished doll, I feel much more satisfied with my work. Working on Dreamfinder along with Figment, who you'll see in next week's video, got me feeling a little burned out after a while because it took me a really long time to finally finish the project, especially with all of the hand sewing involved and other time-consuming things like making yarn wefts for the hair. But now that they're complete, I'm really happy with how well I feel like they capture the vision I had in mind for them. I didn't end up giving Dreamfinder some sort of steampunk contraption as a prop, which I kind of wanted to do, but I think he embodies the character regardless. I really love how his outfit turned out, and his beard is probably my favorite thing about him. I really like his overall expression. And not to toot my own horn, but I do think I kind of succeeded in making Dreamfinder attractive. Do you agree? I can't wait to show you his partner in crime, Figment, in next week's custom doll video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss it. The full face-up process videos for both Dreamfinder and Figment are currently available for $5 supporters on the Doll Fairy Patreon, so check out the link in the description if you're interested. And speaking of Patreon, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of my patrons, because their support makes all of this doll magic possible. We currently have a collaboration going on in the Doll Fairy Patreon community where participants are making dolls based on obscure Disney characters, and their creations will be featured in a showcase video on my channel. The deadline is at the end of June, so hurry and check it out if you want to join in the fun. I'd also like to remind you that the Doll Fairy now has an official shop with apparel, accessories, charms, stickers, and lots of cool stuff for sale. I designed all of the merch on thedollfairy.com, so head over to check it out and sign up for the email list to find out the inside scoop about upcoming sales and events. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you had a lot of fun. I can't wait to see you back here next week for more doll magic. Bye!